Welcome to the Momentum Flow podcast, where ideas, innovations, and experiences are shared to create a continuous stream of inspiration and insight. Join me, your host, Solana, a supply chain expert and investor, as I uncover how visionary founders, operators, and leaders are spotting opportunities, sparking innovation, and scaling profitable growth. From plan to cash, I bring real-world experience and an investor's eye to reveal how clarity, capital, and conviction fuel sustainable growth. Tune in and let's keep the momentum flow going. Today's conversation is particularly exciting as I welcome someone whose career mirrors the evolution of modern supply chain. Bjoern Kirchner, Corporate Vice President Global Supply Chain at Henkel Adhesive Technologies. Bjoern has worked across 5 countries, led and led organizations in both Europe and China, managed global supply chain operations, guided complex ERP implementations, and navigated post-merger integrations. And not only that, but built high-performing organizations through periods of tremendous technological change. Very few executives have experienced that transition from traditional ERP-driven operations to today's AI-enabled supply chain from such a global perspective. I'm looking forward to exploring not only what has changed, but what still separates great organizations from average ones. Bjoern, welcome to the Momentum Flow.
Thank you very much, Luis. Happy to join you today.
Thrilled to see you, man. I appreciate you joining. So, Bjoern, I'd like to begin with your personal story. You studied economics in Munich and London before embarking on a career that eventually took you across Europe and Asia, leading increasingly complex global supply chain organizations. Looking back, what originally attracted you to supply chain management?
Yeah, good question. Actually, I joined the community in China. I was there studying Chinese with a scholarship for 2 years, and I wanted to understand China better. So I came into import-export and worked for a logistics company. So that was my choice strategically, and it turned out to fall in love with, solving real life puzzles, systems, people, process, and I got to know lots of different places in China. And started in logistics, where as an economist was pretty uncommon, but I followed my curiosity, and I don't regret. Since then, I'm part of this community.
That's great. One observation I made throughout my own personal career is that the further leaders move outside of their comfort zones, and you really did, that better they become at managing uncertainty. And uncertainty today has become one of the defining characteristics in modern supply chains. When you compare your younger self entering into the profession with the executive sitting here with us today, what has fundamentally changed in how you make decisions?
Yeah, I mean, over the course of the various places I had the honor to contribute to, obviously my role has changed, and the type of decisions I'm involved or have the honor to take or be part of it. So I think myself changed, my role has changed, but also the environment has changed. Yeah, from a more, let's say, action intuitive, experience-based decision making to rather also having evidence, data, strategies. So I think I evolved while the world around me has evolved, but I think in general it is less on intuition and experience and more towards long-term and driven by evidence, data, so to speak.
Okay. Now, before we dive into technology and transformation, which you have a lot to share there, I'm curious to know what has consistently kept your own personal momentum going through decades of international leadership.
Yeah, I think one of my characters, my traits is really curiosity. Yeah, so I think what drives me is to understand, to be exposed to different situations, and that in supply chain logistics and all the aspects of it, there's not shortage of it. So this drive to share, to improve, to learn. And certainly not being a victim, but rather trying to shape wherever you are. And that's I think what keeps me going. That there's still so much to learn, and we will talk about that later. It actually opens a totally new world for supply chain as we speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Your career has unfolded during one of the most remarkable periods of technological change, right, in our industry. So
Yes.
I think curiosity is a great trait. So which brings us to our first topic, right? So both of us have had, let's call it, the privilege of watching and participating in the evolution of supply chains. We've seen ERP systems transforming planning, lean methodologies reshaping manufacturing, globalization expanding, automation influencing execution, visibility improving decision making, and now AI, right? Which promises another step change. So few leaders have experienced every one of these transitions firsthand. So when you look back over your career, what do you consider the three biggest technology inflection points that have fundamentally changed supply chain management?
Yeah, so when I started, you couldn't even study this, right? So there were no scholars around this. It was really perceived as a bit of exotic and rather coming from logistics, material flow. So I think what fundamentally changed first was certainly ERP systems to put the basis for a company-wide resource planning and then leading to also the advanced planning optimizers. And I had obviously the chance to be part of a couple of those transformative implementations. I think that laid the layer for structured processes and enabled efficiencies and steering of larger companies. So I think that was certainly number one, and all the related MRP possibilities to it. And then I think the next step I personally experienced is when we tried at BASF at that time to get external data into it. Yeah, so I was part of an implementation for an event manager where we actually wanted to get signals from our carriers and forwarders and so on. So I think this expanding from a internal view to external, that was not yet maybe system to system, but it was already okay, there are events out there we want to be more in control of, so let's connect. And obviously that was all about EDI at that moment. And then I think the third one is really happening now, right? So AI is the next transformative. I mean, in between we had all these transactional systems, TMS, WMS, APS. So, but I would say that was more like a consequence of specialization of ERP. But I think AI now, and the focus, we will talk about it later, comes with. I think that is really why I'm so excited to still be in my career, as AI is the next big change, I'm sure.
Well, based on your experience with ERP implementations and digital transformations, so you alluded already to ERP, AI, event tracking systems. Is there a technology that generated more excitement than truly measurable impact that you consider there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm drawing from my own experience. I think this event management definitely was. Yeah, it was a hype at that moment to build a layer on top of various ERP systems, your owns, your partners in the value chain, and such a tracking layer. Obviously, difficult to build from an interface point or data quality, but essentially, when I look back, we were much too early for that. So first mover disadvantage, especially as the organization I worked for was not embracing that you go beyond the four walls of your, let's say, your own world. So I think that was a bit just not yet. And nowadays we talk about four kites and other big players, and so that there are now, all of this is out there. So I think it is always, is it the right moment? Are the other elements mature enough to support that technology? Um, so this one I think was overhyped, and I think another example is when we implemented the Service Cloud for our customer service. I think there we already approached not only technology but also how to adapt the organization, how to adapt the people mindset. So much more holistic, and as such, then technology can also deliver its value.
Yeah, and as an investor today, I often ask founders just a simple question, right? Is your technology fundamentally changing how you make decisions, or you're just really digitizing an existing process? And those are really two very different value propositions. So, in talking innovation, how do you distinguish true innovation from technology cycle or technology hype?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say we at least when I can influence, we don't start with technology, right? So technology is a means to an end. So we start with a certain vision. That's what we want to bring as a value to the organization. And then we see, okay, in order to do so, we need also very often technology. So technology for me is rather a catalyst to bring you where you are. And therefore you need to put this into relation. Is that technology now helping you and therefore make you transform towards your vision, or is it rather you're replacing a certain one which you have with a similar updated version? So technology itself is rather a function then of what you aim to do for it, and it depends on your starting point. Yeah, so maybe for us now, bringing in a certain technology would be only replacement, while for some others who don't have anything in that space, it is then an opportunity to transform. Yeah, so that's how I would look at this.
No, fully agree with you. And when you say we, you mean Henkel, and I know Henkel operates one of the world's most complex industrial supply chains, right? I experienced it firsthand. So, where do you believe AI will create the greatest business value over the next 5 years? Is it on planning, manufacturing, procurement, or anywhere else within the supply chain?
So, and coming back to that theme, if you want to create value, it's not the technology alone. It's a lot of preconditions who then let the technology create the value. So if I look into our various domains I'm involved in, I think I need to assess the preconditions to say, okay, we are ready to capture that AI value. So I think certain process excellence need to be there. You need to have certain contexts to feed the algorithms. You need to have a certain data quality and governance in place. You need certain analytic elements. So technology, and then you need to assess the rest. And if that makes it an even, or at least not too uneven playing field for those capability drivers, then we have a chance. And I would say for us, and many companies start there, is in the customer service area. I think we have invested a lot in standardization, organization, mindset, data, etc. So I think we are good equipped to go and explore the potential. And in some other areas, we still have homework to do. So I would judge only for what I can really perceive and have shaped myself. Obviously, there are great use cases out there also in logistics and also in planning. And I hope we can get there soon as well to capture that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just confirming my own beliefs there, and my own experience, where technology very rarely does create value by itself, right? And value really comes from changing decisions, driving execution. So but at the same time, what decisions inside supply chain do you believe will increasingly become AI assisted? And which decisions should always remain human? Maybe you have an opinion or a perspective on that.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there are different natures of decision. Yeah. So there are those, let's say, more executional, right? So certain steps in a certain sequence or certain decision flows you can model, and let's say the variability is not too complex. And I think this is where this goes the fastest, right? So not too complex decision scenarios, preconditions, pretty good. And I think this is where we'll experience most adoption in the first place. Now, to pretend there is this one space I could not imagine it to be supported or replaced, I would be maybe not optimistic enough. I think where we should be more careful, right? Not saying it's impossible, but we should be more careful is when you come into long-lasting, significant long-term decisions where you just want to make sure you have the capability also on your other parts of the organization, let's say in your humans, which you're building the enterprise with, to actually take a similar decision. So let's talk about investment decisions, right? Building plans, setting up or adding new business. So these are fundamental company decisions with long-lasting impacts. And while I believe AI can help preparing your data, giving you additional insights, etc., ultimately, I think these are the ones I would see go last if you want to be careful with the future you're building with your enterprise. But who knows? Depending on your company industry, maybe there are good models out there which it would fit even for these kind of decisions.
No, but you made a solid point. People, processes, preconditions really transform organizations, and technology really simple brings some new capabilities, right? So let's explore that topic because I think it's interesting for our audience. So, every major technology wave has promised to transform supply chains, right? Yet when we look back, technology by itself rarely was the deciding factor. So companies consistently outperform that consistently outperform are necessarily the ones that have the newest tools, the newest gadgets. They're the ones that rethink how decisions are made, how people collaborate, how work gets all done, and that really brings us to what I believe is the real challenge. So, at least my personal learning is software scales exactly what already exists. So, as an example, if your processes are broken, technology simply helps you to fail faster, right? In contrast, if your operating model is strong, technology becomes a multiplier. So I assume you have seen similar patterns. So looking back, how much of successful transformation is really about technology and how much is about leadership, culture, and execution? What is your perspective?
So it's always about leadership, and because you're talking about transformation, you're not talking about replacement of a technology or change. So you want to transform. That means you redefine what this part you're addressing will create as a value for the company, right? So if you're talking in serious about transformation, it's first and foremost about leadership of thinking it through, explaining it well to everyone, and equipping all the elements you need for success with the right level of maturity. So I think then technology can be a catalyst, okay? Can be a catalyst, can help you to excel, to establish new capabilities this brings with. But some people call an implementation of a tool already a transformation. I would say, okay, I don't buy this. This is, you bring in technology and you hope for adoption, and you hope that the tool will have certain features which people can use to create more value. But did you change the organization? Did you change the mindset of the people? Did you change what you aim for them to evolve over time? And if not, I wouldn't call it a transformation yet. So yeah, it's related to how deep you go into your thinking of going forward.
I fully agree. You make a clear distinction between just digitizing a process and really doing a true, genuine business transformation. They're far different things. So I couldn't agree more with you. So now I often see startups that are pitching faster workflows or better dashboards, but in reality, truly companies that truly capture my attention as an investor now are the ones that are fundamentally changing the way those decisions are made within the organizations. So that's where really the enterprise value begins to shift. So when evaluating a new technology, what tells you that a solution has the potential to become transformational rather than just incremental? Do you have a way of thinking about assessing that?
So I think it's about the right fit. Yeah. So it's like a key and a door, right? Depending on where in your maturity curve you are as a supply chain or as a company, a certain tool can be already transformative. So imagine a small company who now decides to go for ERP and systemize how the company works. That's transformative. That helps them to evolve from one stage to the next, while for others, they've been doing that for 30, 40, 50 years. So I think it is that combination. Now, if you look into very advanced technology equipped companies, I would say the adoption of new technology gets just very fast, right? So that again, if you're centralized already, you can bring technology faster in, and then if you have to go country by country, team by team. So that also defines how fast you get to the value capture point. So I think it's to coming back to the question, I don't think it is the technology itself, is you need to assess, is that the right moment for us from a maturity point of view, and are we set up properly to capture the value fast to make the ROI from the technology investment?
Yeah.
So coming back as an investor, I would imagine advise always, okay, that's it. What is the most likely business scenario where this technology will drive value? Yeah.
You're making a clear distinction between getting capability versus just bringing a technology, right? And I think that's, you're building in your extensive experience of post-merger integrations, which I know you went through a couple of those in your career. So those moments really often expose how different organizations operate truly beneath the surface. So did those experiences teach you something about designing operating models? Leave aside technology for a second, but designing those operating models that then can really scale?
Yeah. So when two companies come together, right, in whatever scenario of an M&A, then you expose foremost the culture, right, the cultural difference on how to approach things, and I think that's the most sensitive piece if you want to keep that company and its culture to capture the value or the promise of that acquisition. So defining the objective is key, right? Is it a restructuring case? Is it buying a certain access or a certain market share, or is it combining two major players? Or so what is your integration scenario? And that then defines, okay, how do you deal with the operating systems, the two of them? Do you keep them as is because you don't want to touch, they should run, or is it a cost case and you want to integrate as fast as possible? So depending on that, I think your integration scenario needs to look like. And indeed, then over time, you need to find the synergies in any case. And you, best case, can keep operating model elements of the two entities. So, yeah, and the ones I went through, they are very different. What is key is that you keep the players who made that company successful accountable for keeping it successful, and then an operating model adjustments can follow over time.
You're hinting in your to process excellence, right? That really should accelerate decision making, not really slowing down. Unfortunately, many organizations unintentionally they end up creating bureaucracy in the name of governance, right? And one of the themes I really like to explore with you is the idea of process excellence without bureaucracy. So how do you create then a disciplined, standardized operations while still preserving that speed, innovation, agility, and entrepreneurial thinking?
Yeah, so that's a super point because, depending on where you work in a company, you perceive if you're more in the central, let's say in large organization, you more perceive this as obvious. We need governance, and we need to leverage. And if you're more in the outside or in the decentral in the countries, then all this rules and bureaucracy, and it kills us. So I think that's a natural conflict. So the way I try to look at this, that there is good government. Okay, governance is good. You want to be safe on the street. You want everybody to behave so that you can actually move fast. And so, if that's the spirit of governance, of ensuring flow, ensuring people can go together at one place, safe. Now, in processes language, it means there's not one, but there are also not million variants because they will block each other. So I think building these segments to allow for the differences and the way we do is with process mining, we can actually pretty much see how many ways we have to do a certain executional step, and then we say, look, doesn't make sense to have 1,000 variants, but it definitely makes sense to have 10. I'll give you a number. And now you have to obviously navigate how do you reduce the unnecessary variances and still provide those which we need to run our different business segments. So yeah, there's it's a conflict. The question is where you sacrifice, right? Some speed for some efficiency, but then keeping the agility versus losing it out on the other side. So
No, but
I think that's the equilibrium you need to find.
But you're advocating for balance, and I think that's the right approach.
Yes,
At the
definitely.
end,
Yes.
you need some centralized structure. You need to also allow innovation, but also I fully agree with that. So maybe we start pivoting towards next topic, because everything we discussed points to really one conclusion, right? Technology is becoming increasingly accessible. AI will continue to become increasingly available. Digital platform will continue to mature. All that means that the real differentiator might not be longer only technology in itself, right? It's people who know how to lead with it. So let's talk about what the next generation of supply chain leadership looks like, if that makes sense. So throughout the conversation, one theme has emerged repeatedly. Technology evolves, ERP becomes cloud becomes visibility, visibility becomes AI, but every technology wave ultimately changes something that is definitely bigger than software. It changes how leaders make decisions, how organizations collaborate, and most importantly, what great leadership looks like, right? So let's talk about leadership. So one observation I've had recently is that people often ask whether AI will replace, let's call it planners or buyers or supply chain professionals. Personally, I really think that's the wrong question. The better question is, how does AI elevate the roles of supply chain leaders? I would love to hear your perspective on that statement, whether you agree or not, or you have a different perspective.
Yeah, so we're in the beginning of something, and we don't know, where this let's say industrial transformation will take us, and which part will be transformed faster than others. So it's a bit of a best guess, but it is obvious that we will use AI agents to run tasks and take decisions. Yeah. So, and it is now the question, where is the human in that? Is it in the loop? Is it on the loop? Is it off the loop? So the nature of the remaining tasks will change. Yeah. So we give certain tasks away and taking decision, executing steps, interacting. And we need to maybe understand that where humans are good at is, depending on their role in that process, is also more on the relational piece, on integrating, on overseeing, and trying to figure out what is the true additional value we can create by giving away, let's say, more transactional and increasingly maybe even more complex tasks. So I would say it's becoming more demanding to work in supply chain. Yeah. So the pure transactional jobs will not be there. We need different profiles going forward. And the knowledge itself maybe is not what it will be, but rather how you approach things, how you connect things, how you drive. And that is then much more leadership skills, right? So stakeholder management, change management, how to make humans accepting evolutions and progress. So I think there's lots of work, but we will focus maybe on aspects where we are, by nature, more equipped to. So yeah, there will be lots of lot of different evolutionary steps to take in this journey.
I fully agree. Let me just probe a little deeper on that one, because I agree with you. The AI is providing information almost instantly, right, and abundant. Okay, there's a lot of information. So now, is the new competitive advantage shifting from information availability to really judgment capabilities, being able to to discern and to guide and to leverage those tools? What is that happening in your world?
Yeah, I mean, I would think even that you can argue whether that can not also be done, right? I mean, what is a judgment is weighting options. Okay, so okay, we have the various option now. Give me your judgment, and then it takes a pro and con and weighting. So I would say even that to some extent I can foresee recommendations, right? Judgments, recommendation coming. I don't know whether this will be the differentiator.
Okay.
I would rather think, if you look at the core issue of S&OP, it's not coming up with one plan or two plan. It's ensuring there's an alignment of where this organization is walking towards, right? So that not
Mm-hmm.
sales goes in one, operations in the other. So that
Mm-hmm.
there is clear, this is the rhythm, this is the direction. We have agreed on certain scenarios. So this human alignment process and the relational aspects of it, as long as humans run companies, will be there. And I think we hopefully can dedicate more time to that than looking for the numbers or presenting scenarios. Just so I think this is more the relational piece which will distinguish our contribution from any machine. Yeah.
Fully agree. And indirectly, you're hinting towards the supply chain capabilities are shifting, are changing, right? So let's play
Mm-hmm.
pretend. If you were mentoring a young professional that is entering supply chain today,
Mm-hmm.
how would you tell them to learn that university may not yet be teaching them? And what
Okay.
experiences should they deliberately seek early in their
Mm-hmm.
careers, given the world is changing in front of us?
Yeah. Um, so let's assume you learn good stuff at university on all the industrial engineerings and flow, and so all the elements you can study from a content point of view, logistics and planning algorithms, and also the data excellence. So I think lots of great building blocks, which I had to, grab while I was in my career. But I'm sure you can study that and take that already with you when you start. So I think this is all knowledge. Yeah. So this is important that you really understand these things, but ultimately there will be a machine who knows that as well, right? So I think what I would recommend, as soon as you have the chance to really understand how a company works, how different parts of the company work from within, right? So to become a good supply chain manager, I would say you should have worked in various aspects of the company to understand their stakeholder perspectives, how they're triggered, what they aim for, what kind of mindset they might bring to the table. And then you can play that role as an integrator in supply chain. So change your perspective, learn how others look at this. As I still believe supply chain is the one, the spider in the web, or can be part of the team who is the spider in the web. So I think that's something you might not be able to grab in university. This is really,
Yeah.
getting the touch of how it feels in a certain function of the company.
So the next question is more towards beyond the person, right? So,
Yeah.
if you were starting your career today and you had the opportunity to build the next great supply chain technology company, right? What what industry problem would you want to solve? Is there an aspirational, is there something that you have passion behind that you would love to solve for?
Yeah, so I need to disappoint you. I'm not a techie guy per se. I'm amazed what is out there, right? So when young startup, they approach me, I'm always amazed about their creativity and the little tools they come up with. So I think there's a lot of opportunities given with how the technology evolves and its capability. Um, I think when whatever idea you come up with from a technology point of view, you need to be super clear to understand how to bring that into which type of organization, because the technology will not sell. The value you create, and as I described, the value will depend on okay, which pocket of the market, small, medium, large companies, which maturities I'm aiming for, what should be in preconditions in that specific company type for me to create that. Because ultimately, I mean, I can only speak for me. I'm not excited by the technology. I'm excited by the value I can create. So if somebody comes with the value proposition and I understood that, talking to a 10 billion business, it would be a bit naive if you propose me certain things. I said, you didn't understand which market you're actually trying to address with your solution. So,
Yeah.
yeah, don't start with the technology, start with the value.
Yeah.
That would be my advice. But
No,
yeah, I
no,
never went into that business, Louis, for a good reason. Yeah.
no, and you didn't disappoint me. You're reinforcing your point. Technology has to be for the right fit company. It's not one
Mm,
fits all. And the second one, it's a means to an end, which are the 2 points that you made before,
yes,
I
yes,
fully echo and I agree. So now, this has been a great discussion. We explore technology evolution, reality of transformation, and a little bit of what leadership may look like in this new AE era, right? So
yes,
now we're getting to the end of our time today, but before we wrap up, I would like to have just a fast-paced lightning round of concise question and answer. So you don't need to
okay,
overthink it. Just one or two words, one phrase. That's
okay,
it. So let me go through it. So let me start
yeah,
with a with a double question. Okay. So one
yeah,
technology you're most excited about, and one technology that has received more attention than it deserves.
okay. So the ones I'm most excited about is really decision intelligence systems. So obviously now with AI, this is in everybody's mouth, but I believe if you master decision intelligence systems structurally, then you can create a huge value. So I'm high respect for those companies who have managed to deploy that. So that's
Mhm.
really most excited, and I would be eager to do that as well myself. Um, and the other part,
And
more than it
overhat.
deserves, yeah. So I think we've been focused, rightfully or not, on that execution layer a lot, right? Execution systems, whether it's MES, TMS, WMS, ERP. So I think that received enough attention. By now, we should have fixed it, in my opinion. Now we should rather look at the intelligence layer, and yeah, but
Right.
obviously execution layer needs to be in place. Yeah, but don't if you don't have that, then certainly you need to work on it. But yeah, for me that has enough. It got
Yeah, no,
enough attention, to be honest.
I hear you.
Yeah.
So one leadership habit that has contributed most to your personal success.
Curiosity, I would say. I mentioned at the beginning. I think that drove me into exploring new ideas, new things, and to some degree also no fear, right? So uh, the more complex the problem is, the more excited I get to find a way out or in or over, however you want. So, yeah, I think this is a bit
Yeah.
be outspoken but polite, obviously, a bit curious to ask the questions. So, yeah, I think that's maybe for the good and the bad, both of it. Yes.
So drawing from your vast international experience, one lesson every executive should learn from really working internationally.
Yeah. So there's not one correct view on things. So, different perspectives, they all have their value. And the more diverse your team is, and you manage to include this diversity, you get better. But there is this natural tendency to clone yourself and think, my approach is the right. So, if you have the chance to really overcome your own perspective and learn this by working daily with many, many cultures, then I think it's a rich experience. So I can only wish for everyone.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for indulging me on this quick question. So this podcast, as you know, is called the Momentum Flow, right? And every guest brings a different perspective of what creates a true lasting momentum. So when you look ahead 10 years from now, what gives you the greatest confidence that the momentum behind supply chain innovation will continue accelerating?
Okay. Um,
or you don't have any confidence on it?
No, all good. I think, if you look at supply chain, what are we actually doing? We are trying to synchronize demand and supply, uh, where there are distinct time zones, right? So time horizons. And and that's actually a fundamental economic problem, which usually the price, right? Price adjusts demand and supply, and we are kind of in supply chain doing that with flow of material information to resolve that gap. So that is a fundamental economic challenge, and we make it happen, right? So we are applied economics, if you want. So it will always be there, and I still this momentum will not lose, because as long as we trade, we need an answer to how we close that gap. And so I'm confident that innovation and will continue. And for the next 10 years, I think we're still riding the AI wave. So
Yeah.
I would say that should be good.
Fully
Yeah.
agree. Last questions, and this is more at personal level. So, one mindset or daily habit you want to share with the audience that has helped you continue building your personal momentum in your career? You mentioned curiosity before, but I was wondering if there was
Yeah.
something else.
I mean, every day is a new day, and personal resilience helps you. That even if we try to solve difficult layers or difficult topics, you need resilience, you need perseverance, but you can do it. It sometimes takes longer than you would love to, but as long as you keep going, you will get there. So this is a fundamental belief that resilience will bring you there, and yeah, I think that keeps me going, and I think it's definitely necessary in supply chain.
Yeah, no, I know you're a resilient person. So Bjorn, what I've enjoyed most about today's conversation is that we go way beyond discussing technology, right? We explore how technology really changes organizations, how organizations change leadership, and ultimately how leadership determines whether technology is really creating lasting value or
Hmm.
not. So one insight that really resonated with me is that the competitive advantage is not created simply by adopting new technologies. It's created by redesigning how people make decisions, collaborate across functions, execute with discipline. And technology might level the playing field, right? But leadership is what ultimately separates the winners, and I fully agree with that. So I just want to, appreciate. I give you a thank you. I appreciate that you join us. You share your experiences, your perspectives, and your leadership journey with all of us today. So, any final comments or closing remarks you want to do?
No, thanks for having me, Luis. I enjoyed the conversation very much.
Thanks for joining. And to our audience, if today's discussion sparked a new idea, challenge a long-held assumption, or help you think differently about the future of supply chains, please subscribe and share this episode with colleagues, founders, operators, leaders, or any investor across your network. I'm Luis Solana, and this is the Momentum Flow, where clarity, capital, and conviction keep supply chains and leaders moving forward. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and keep the momentum flowing. Thank you.